Here's the lift kit we're installing today. New Ready Lift upper control arms. We have the preload spacers for the springs, the front strut top hats, which is going to round off the front end, and then in the back we have our bump stop spacer, our rear coil spring spacers, and the hardware needed to install those. We'll start ripping the front end apart and check back in a little bit. Alright, so just in coinciding with the directions for this lift kit install, first thing we did is we undid our brakes. Our brake line up here. This is a 13mm bolt. Then they tell you to unclip the ABS harness, or the harness for the ABS wire out of your upper control arm, which is right in here. Now, I've stretched and broken a couple of these in the past, so I like to go all the way up the line a little bit, which is why you see all this disconnected up here, just to give a little extra slack so we're not breaking anything. Then you come around to this side. Tie rod ends are taken out. And then I have the upper ball joint loose currently. We're just about to break this free and keep on with the install. We are underneath this ram now. Have it up on the lift just as a little low height for now, still working height. Next step to these directions is we got to take the sway bar off of the frame here. It's just going to be 2 bolts, 1, 2 on the driver's side, 1, 2 on the passenger side. They're 15 mils. And we're back. So as you can see, we've gotten a bunch of other stuff done here. Big thing here, you'll see we got a bungee cord holding our spindle on. Basically, we're just trying to keep any tension off of our brake line and our ABS wires going down to the outside of the knuckle here. But as you can see, we got a couple things missing. No upper control arms, no struts currently. So we have our lower control arms supported by our little jack here. Then we took the 3 16mm nuts out of the top, took the bolt holding the bottom of the strut, which is a 21 on the front, and the back side on the nut, which would be down here, is a 24mm. Then we lowered everything down, pulled the strut out. Once we had the strut out, we loosened the 2 21mm bolts, one here with a flag nut, and then we had another one here with a flag nut on the inside as well. And we got everything out. We can see this is our factory control arm, and then we have our upgraded unit here. A little bit of a different shape. I'm actually not sure which one of these is the replacement, but our fabricated control arm. And then we have our factory strut right here, which we're going to start ripping into in just a minute. So here we have, as you can see, the disassembled strut on our nice little strut compressor we have here. Now it's very important, these things are under incredible amounts of load. You don't want to do this without some sort of a strut compressor, or have a trained professional do it for you. This is really dangerous stuff. But as you can see, you have the strut taken apart. I have it marked as to which side was the original outside of the strut. Did the same thing up here on the top, as you can see. Took the 19mm nut out of the top here. Everything's apart. So now we're going to start adding our preload spacers to this. Bing. Now we are torquing the new strut spacer to the top. As you can see, we have the rest of the strut reassembled with the preload spacer underneath the top hat. Now we have the lift spacer above the top hat going on 30 foot-pounds. Yeah, it's better over on the other one. We're back here with the strut. We just finished torquing this top on. But one thing they don't include in the directions, which is why we got my little grinder sitting over here, is the fact that you have to trim these upper factory strut mounts, the studs that stick out. You notice the surface here where my finger is the new mating surface for this upper strut spacer we're putting on. So, but if you notice on a nice little close-up here, that this the top of this stud actually extends past this surface. So we actually have to trim this here a little bit to make sure we're torquing, or when we go to torque this into the truck, that we're actually on this mating surface versus just torquing it directly to the tops of these 3 studs, which we don't want. All right, so we have plenty of clearance now. You can see we're going to be hitting nice on this mating surface right where it's supposed to, not hitting up on this stud anymore. Now, just like before, old control arm, I did confirm it is this control arm here, ready lift sticker towards the front of the vehicle. So this is our driver's control arm, this is our passenger control arm. But we're going to go ahead and get this into the truck. Then we're going to have this, we're going to be putting the whole strut assembly back in. One other side note I just wanted to point out, I just said it was the ready lift sticker to the front, which is one way of looking at it, but per the directions, we're looking for this hole right here on the control arm needs to be facing the rear of the vehicle. This is what the factory, or what the manufacturer says. So, rear of the vehicle, or potentially front of vehicle. Don't take this for every application though, it just happens to work here. Had to break out the big torque wrench for this one. 185 foot-pounds. Click, click. So right before we torque this, which you'll see just a second ago probably, directions did say, do not forget to grease your ball joints up here. It says over-greasing causes premature wear. I promise you there is grease in this, it just needs to move around and get a little bit of wear in, but they come ungreased, so make sure you grease them. Alright, here's a quick little update for everybody. We've fully installed the upper control arm, ball joint is tight with the new cotter pin in it. This was 65 foot-pounds. We have both of the old bolts installed for the upper control arm with their original flag nuts. These are 125 foot-pounds. We have the brake line is reinstalled. We have the ABS wire zip tied to it, which they do not include any zip ties with this kit, but you will need one for in here just so this isn't dangling all over the place. Reclipped all of our harnesses back in here. What we have, oh, and we torqued our axle nut. What we have left, we have our tie rod needs to be done, outer tie rod end, lower strut bolt, and upper strut bolt. As you can see, I still have it supported by our jack here. So this is compressed so we can work on getting this tightened. And yeah, we'll be back in a bit. All right, this is our full installed product on the driver's side. I have to still go and do the entire other side of the truck. Got the jack getting ready to go over there, but everything's installed, torqued, ready to go. Now we're going to do the passenger side. Next time I check in, we'll be starting on the driver or passenger rear. I guess it just depends on my mood when I get back there. We'll see you in a minute. One quick note, still haven't installed the sway bar. We're going to do that after the other side of the truck is done, so we're not fighting with the tension of the bar between the 2 lower control arms. So now we will see you back there. Alright, we're almost ready to go back to the other side, but I was in here tightening my castle nut, and as you can see, after I reach the torque spec, the slot does not line up with the hole anymore, and it's too shrouded for me able to put my cotter pin in. Now, of course, drop my ratchet. The big thing with the castle nut is you never want to loosen it. In theory, I could loosen this a little bit and re-line this back up, and then you put your cotter pin in, it fits. But you're no longer achieved the correct torque. So with castle nuts, if you cannot get it through the slot and through the hole in the ball joint, or whatever the castle nut is on, always tighten to the next open slot and then put your cotter pin in. Sweet. Also, please everybody, invest in a pair of these. Some flush cuts. And cut your zip tie tails. And here we have it. This is the full completed install on the front kit. We have both sides done. We have the sway bar put back up. Don't mind the vacuum in the background, my apologies. But yeah, we have our spacer up here, preload, new upper control arm, all the different spacers and stuff. This is the front kit. Now, as you can see, getting set up in the back. We'll see you in a bit.